I'm Dr. Tracy Stecker, and welcome to the Choosing Help podcast. Choosing Help presents conversations about courage, connection, and the transformative power of asking for support. Through candid discussions, expert insights, and real-world stories, this podcast breaks down stigma and opens doors to understanding. Join our community committed to compassion and courage, because when we choose help, we choose life. Welcome to Choosing Help. I'm Dr. Tracy Stecker, and I'm thrilled to have Don Mann back with us again for a second visit. Don is a retired United States Navy SEAL veteran. He's an accomplished author. He's written over 20 books, and he is an elite athlete. We brought him on the first time to talk about his recent book, The Navy SEAL Playbook, which outlines some core principles utilized for Navy SEAL training. And the discussion was so inspiring to me that I wanted to bring him back so that we could have a little more of his time and his thoughts about certain of these principles. One in particular I'd love to talk about is the principle of discomfort and how growth happens um, sometimes during times of pain and discomfort. And I would love to get more of your thoughts, Dawn, on that principle, how to help people who can kind of get stuck there in that discomfort, maybe avoid their philosophy is maybe, oh no, I'm avoiding pain at all. I'm going to avoid pain. That's my life mission, to avoid pain. Whereas you're kind of just the opposite. I'm going right through it. Where's the pain? I'm gonna go right through it. So welcome again. Happy to have you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks for having me again. I really enjoyed the first conversation we had, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Awesome. Awesome. So what are your thoughts about I know we talked last time about discomfort and had some you outlined some of the thoughts about Navy SEAL training. Outside of that, just in terms of your concept about growth through pain, growth through discomfort. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Tracy, I would bet everything I own that this thought I'm about to say is the truth. It's not just a belief, it's something I really believe in, but it's beyond that. It's proven over and over and over and over. And I don't want to always bring it back to the SEAL training because there's so much more to life than SEAL training. But when somebody is in a little bit of physical pain and they start thinking about ringing that bell, boy, it's all over. Instead of having that temporary discipline to get through that pain, now for the rest of their life, they've got that permanent pain of regret. And that's something I love talking to about because that doesn't have to happen to anybody. You just, like you just mentioned, you just need a couple tools to deal with it. And so oftentimes you hear somebody will say, "Well, just get to your happy place. Get to your happy
Yeah.
place."
Yeah.
Well, I believe that works. I believe that works. For me, my own happy place is the mountains or a river or the ocean or thinking of music. And even in, prisoner of war scenarios, when I was going through survival school, when you're captured and when I have been captured for real, really, you just let your mind, you direct your mind where you want it to go because it can find a place where your body will go through what it has to go through, but your mind can get a break. And if you can get to your mind and steer your mind to that place where you know it's your happy place, it's helped so many people. And Tracy, what I did before this show, I was looking over some old notes on prisoners of war and the pain they went through and the suffering they went through. And it's amazing. I forgot a lot about these stories, but I remember hearing them when I was a young man. And during Vietnam, some of the prisoners, they would get to their happy place. And what they would do, whatever's happening to their body, whatever torture and the pain that's going through their body, their mind might be thinking of how to build a house.
Yeah.
Brick by brick, they would build a house in their mind. Another POW, what he thought about was his golf game, and he was a big golfer, and he wanted to become to get out of that POW camp someday and go play golf again. Well, he thought about so much about his golf game. When he was released months later, he had one of his best scores ever.
Wow.
So there is some truth about getting to your happy place. And to me, saying your happy place, it sounds almost comical or kind
Yeah.
of juvenile. But there is a place where you can, and you have to steer your mind to get there. Because if you don't, and your mind wanders and it goes the wrong direction, that could just be an expedient to get you to fail all the quicker.
Yeah.
For instance, and if you're going through physical pain or emotional pain or mental abuse or any type of pain, and your mind goes to the dark places, it's just going to exaggerate it.
Yeah.
But you can train your mind to, okay, I'm going to start thinking about the top of this hill where I can look down and see a beautiful lake.
Yeah.
And physical training, which is just an analogy, but in physical training, if your body just feels like it can't take any more, you can't take any more, and you can steer your mind to that comfortable place, then let your body go through what it's going through. And if you can't help it, if you can't stop it, at least your mind's not going to accelerate the process of demise or of going to failure.
Yeah. You said two really, I mean, you said so many important things. One, a thing I heard is acceptance of the situation. So when you're in a moment of discomfort or actual pain, emotional or physical pain, there's a reality happening there. You are enduring something, and there's a part of going through that process that is acknowledging what is happening with you. And at the same time, it's taking a moment to go away from it, to step outside of the scenario. You're not saying this isn't happening. You're saying it is happening. And for right now, I'm going to take a step out. I'm going to go someplace. It sounds like meditation in a way, or finding your happy place. It's going someplace else just to take a break from the current situation.
Oh yeah, I like the way you just said that. That's what I believe in, and the way you said it was just so great. The way you just worded that, and we will get signals from our body like this really hurts or
Yeah.
so much pain, but that's just information. That's just data coming in, and it's not like an instruction or an order to quit or to
Hmm.
stop doing what you're doing. It's just information. Yeah, this hurts, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and I mentioned this last time, but I do believe there's such a power, such a strength you can develop, everybody can develop by looking at the situation, looking at the challenge, the emotional challenge or the physical challenge, and think, I welcome the pain because I'm going to get through this. I'm
Hmm.
strong. A lot of people have gotten through much worse than I have. I always
Hmm.
think of POWs and people in death camps and all they've gone through and people in those war zones nowadays. I mean, they're not trained and they're ma managing to get through all this. And guys in the military, they are trained. They got to step up. But everybody is going to experience some pain
Hmm.
and everyone's going to experience some discomfort, physical, emotional, some sort of discomfort. And we do live, I hate to say the word, a bubble. It's overused, I know. But if we think of ways to find ways so your body can deal with the pain, but your mind can get the break like you did. It's really stretching our bubble a little bit more that we can take more and more and more and more. And at some point, when all that's done, you come back and you'll face something similar, but it's not going to seem as bad because
Right.
you've already gone through the steps of dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. In a way, I had two thoughts right away. One, it reminded me of marathon training. I remember my first marathon. When I was actually at my first marathon, I hit that point where I thought, ugh. This is dumb. I'm not feeling comfortable right now. I don't know why I'm doing this. And I really did have this conversation where I thought, why? I'm kind of in pain and I don't know why I'm doing this. And then you just keep going. I had purpose. I had meaning for that run. I was intending to run that run. I signed up. So I had this perspective that, no, you signed up for this, dummy. Keep going. Of course it hurts. Keep going anyway. So I had meaning. I was doing it with intention. And I believed that if you just kept going, you'd finish. But what I learned is, and I didn't know this before, when I kept going, the pain went away. I thought if I kept going, the pain would be with me for, till the rest, till the finish line. That wasn't even true. The pain actually went away, and then I was kind of full of adrenaline. I was running pretty fast after that. You learn stuff about your own capacity to move through discomfort. If you avoid discomfort, you never experience your capacity to move through it. I mean, sometimes it, and that was a marathon is one of those examples that I think is easy to use because it's a fun experience. You do sign up. Some pain is not like that. You didn't sign up for it, and it's not fun. But the principle is the same. Keep going. Look for meaning in it. Find purpose. Find some sort of way to have a positive thought about it if possible, or at least meaning behind it.
Oh yeah. And if say for instance you were hitting the wall, your body was starting to shut down on you, and then all these reasons come to you, why am I doing this? I could be home watching TV or I could be with the kids or something. And all those negative thoughts come in. And I was talking to a young man yesterday who was getting ready to go to SEAL training, and his parents asked me to talk to him. And his parents always talked him into make sure you have a backup plan, make sure you have a backup plan.
Mm.
I didn't know they were telling him all that, but I
Mm.
was telling the young man, whatever you do, don't have a backup plan. Like, for instance, like you running in the marathon, if you had a
Yeah,
backup plan, while at mile 17, if my legs and my stomach and my head and everything hurts, what
yeah,
I'm going to do, I'll bail out at this mile marker here. I'll go to the coffee shop and I'll have someone pick me up. I mean, that backup plan will come to you in the midst of all that agony you're going through.
yeah,
With buds, I didn't have a backup plan. I always tell people don't have a backup plan because it'll be easy for your mind to switch to the
yeah.
nice plan. And but if you did quit, and I know you didn't and wouldn't, but if you did quit at, where you hit the wall in a marathon mile 16, 18, somewhere around there, for the rest of your life, you would have that permanent pain and regret.
Hmm.
And you'd always say, well, I almost finished a marathon, but, and some excuse would come out afterwards.
Hmm.
But instead, you had that discipline and you were able to get through that pain and you were
Hmm.
able to finish a 26.2 mile run. And now a 26.2 mile run is not something that seems like, oh my God, how do I do that? Now you've done it. Now your next step would be, now I'm going to learn to do it faster. And
Hmm.
now I'm going to do two this month, maybe. But you can keep expanding your bubble. And I wanted to mention that. And the thing about it got easier for you after you hit the wall there, if that's what happened, is I like to say during SEAL training, when you're doing hundreds of flutter kicks, laying on your back and doing 4 count flutter kicks, I always tell people like 80 hurts, but doing 300 of them doesn't hurt anymore. It's the same pain. It doesn't get any worse. Just
Right.
get through it and let your mind just go wander somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about Aaron Ralston, and a friend of mine was there to do the movie when he was in Utah and his hand was crushed between a rock and a boulder, and
Oh,
he was stuck for
oh,
like 5 days. And he was stuck in there and he was really gonna die. He was pinned under that boulder it was in a canyon.
oh, I don't know this story. That sounds horrible.
Oh boy, you would love the story. Aaron Ralston, Ralston is his name, but he was in Utah and we were putting on an adventure race there. So I know
Okay.
the story really well because the people who helped me set up my ropes helped him do his reenactment for the movie they made for him.
Okay.
I forget the actor who played his part, but they did a great job on it. But Aaron, he was canyoneering alone and he fell and a rock had crushed his hand against a boulder. So he was stuck and he just had a little bit of water. So instead of thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die, this pain is way too much, I can't handle it, he just sipped water and he was thinking, I'm going to make it. I'm just going to make the water last. I'm going to sip. Somebody will be here. but he was there for 5 days
Wow.
alone. And
Wow.
and what he did, he didn't give up and just die, which
Hmm.
some people would have done. He had like a little 2-inch pocket knife in his pocket. And this isn't the point of the story, but what he did, and he's living now and he's going around and giving talks, he took that little knife and he cut off his arm and he
Oh.
survived.
Hmm.
And he said his survival, he was able to put up with all that pain because he just looked at it as one segment at a time. Okay, I'm going to have a sip of water. Okay, and X amount of time, I'll have another sip and someone will be here.
Hmm.
And day, night came, day, night. He never gave up. And he was thinking, well, I probably will die. I'm out of water. I'm out of food. I'm going to have to take the next step. And that's what's called as segmentation, segmenting the time. And in military training, if you're going through some brutal process, instead of thinking, how am I going to deal with a year of this training? There's no way.
Yeah.
How am I
Yeah.
going to deal with 6 months of this training? But if you can segment your time, why are you going through that pain? Why are you going through any type of pain? Aaron's pain is, that's, an extreme example, but I like the extreme examples because they really hit the point. And but to segment the time in buds, we would say, don't think of all 6 months coming up. Just think of this evolution. When this evolution's over, whew, that's a victory. Now I got the next one to think about.
Hmm.
This evolution, and we just segment the time.
Hmm.
And that's what Aaron did. And when I was thinking about Aaron, I was thinking that's exactly what the advice is when you're going through military training.
Yeah.
And what you said is, and what I believed in all my life is before discomfort comes your way, before something challenging or some training comes your way, in advance, if you can, if you have the time, in advance, prepare for that pain.
Yeah.
Say, okay, this is going to be hard. Oh my God, this is going to be really hard. And prepare for it. And I always like to say, welcome the pain. It's
Hmm.
just going to hurt.
Hmm.
It's just going to hurt. And through visualization, and visualization helps so much for me, welcoming the pain. Like for climbing a mountain, I would picture how the nights are going to be so cold and bitter cold, and the frostbite and the hypothermia and everything you have to deal with, the crevasses and the avalanches. I just picture everything. And buds, I pictured every evolution I could. And at the end of it, I was thinking it was bad, but not nearly as bad as I thought it was. So
Uh-huh.
I did welcome all that pain. I welcomed
Hmm.
it. And I visualized how bad it would be because I wanted to do my best to prepare for it. But it's never as bad as I thought because of that visualization and me preparing myself and welcoming it and knowing it was coming. It
Yeah.
helped a lot.
Okay, so the same points. It's accepting the situation for what it is, having meaning behind it. You knew you had expectations for what was coming. You visualized what was coming. You had strategies to deal with the hard times. In advance, you knew what your strategies were going to be, and you were able to implement them because you planned ahead and they weren't, quit when it gets hard or have a backup plan. They were, sometimes you're going to dig in. Sometimes you're going to need to meditate to visualize your happy place. Sometimes you're going to need to really embrace that pain and accept for what it was. The other thing you do, it sounds like, is understand that the pain is temporary. There's a end to the pain, and just understanding that, and the basically the consequence of the pain, because at the end you finish whatever you had set out to do. So you're using all sorts of strategies that I think are really, really critical and important.
And Tracy, you made me think. I've never heard any marathon runner ever say ever, and I've known a lot of people who've done these events. I've never heard anybody say, I'll never do another one. It was too hard. Because you
Right.
kind of forget the pain. You
Yeah.
just think of how great it was to cross that line.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Yeah. You're like, I do that again. Yeah.
And the other thing you said just a little bit ago, which I really liked, was you have to have a purpose.
Hmm.
And the purpose is I set my mind, I'm gonna train right, and I'm gonna finish a marathon, and that's my purpose.
Hmm.
But there was this during World War II, when they had the Nazi death camps and the POW camps and all that. One of the guys, he wrote a very great book that had to do with survival, and he talked a lot about having purpose.
Hmm.
He said a lot of people came and go, a lot of people didn't make it. But the ones he saw who made it, they all had a purpose.
Hmm.
And his purpose was he wanted to finish writing the story he was writing before he was captured. And his whole purpose in life, his happy place was to think about the story, build the story, and his purpose, he had two purposes really. One is to finish that, and one is to get back with his wife. Now his wife had passed and he didn't know it, but he had a purpose. He had to get back to her.
Hmm.
And if you're steadfast on focusing on your purpose and having a purpose, like for instance, that marathon, your first marathon, if it was like, yeah, I think maybe this afternoon I'm going to go out and run a marathon, you didn't really put a lot of thought into the purpose. You didn't have any time to welcome the pain or anything like that. There's a chance you might not finish that because the purpose, the mission-driven purpose wasn't there.
Right. Right. Uh-oh. Am I still connected? Okay, good. Is
I,
that good?
yeah, I still hear you.
Okay, okay, good. My computer's doing some funky little reconnecting right now, so I wanted to make sure. I think it's really important what you're saying about meaning and purpose. I know I keep going back to it as well. Pain, sometimes people can get lost in pain, and people can definitely and understandably say, that's not for me. I want to live a life avoiding pain. Um, as a psychologist, I work with many people who have said, I want to take a pass on that. I'm doing everything I can to minimize pain in my life, to avoid pain in my life. And you're saying just the opposite. You are saying, listen, in order to move forward, you're going to have to embrace that pain. And you can do this. There is some pain that it's difficult to find meaning and purpose. You know, signing up for a marathon, that's just a fun activity on the side. Some people live, you know, they have physical pain. They might have had some sort of horrific trauma happen, and they have pain, and they're not understanding the purpose of that pain. But the strategies to manage that pain are the same. And even helping someone or with if it's you trying to find some purpose, some meaning, even if it feels difficult, but it's possibly there if you consider it. You know, it's it's easy to say there's no purpose for this. There's no reason why I'm going through this. But what if you say, why am I going through this? What is the purpose?
Yeah, exactly. And you answer your question with
Yeah.
an answer
Or
that keeps you going.
Or at least consider it. Yeah. What would you say to somebody? Because I know you've talked to many people who've been injured, traumatically injured, and live with chronic pain. They know strategies to manage discomfort. But sometimes it gets too much. You know, it just really does. How do you talk with people like that? What do you offer them?
I have dealt with probably quite a few thousand people, thousands of people going through things that put them through a lot of pain. And
Hmm.
not only in the military, but afterwards as a race director and put on all these adventure races. Actually, my company slogan for my first adventure racing company was "Your pain is my pleasure." And people used to come just to get pictures of the slogan because it it sounds sick, but I didn't mean it in a sick way at all. I do acknowledge the fact that I've gone through a lot of pain, and I'm so grateful and happy that I did because I
Hmm.
was able to stretch way out of that little bubble I was maybe living in early on in
Hmm.
life. And just having an opportunity or lots of opportunities to keep expanding it and expanding it, expanding it, and experiencing the pain and dealing with the pain. But I can say all these people who've done through all these races and gone through SEAL training camps and all that, I do think most people who quit, they felt the pain. They felt it, but it was this story that was coming up in their head that is the reason they
Mhm.
quit. Like, I am in so much pain. There's no way I can do this. My feet hurt so much. These blisters are killing me. I can't do it anymore. And they make up a story, a fictional story, because they're wrong when they say they can't do it anymore. They're making up that story that is incorrect.
Right.
And they put the story together and they fall for the story. It's not it's not the wall that stops them. It's the story that when they tell themselves they can't do it and then they end up being right that they can't do it. Um, I've really seen very, very, very few people actually quit anything because their body wouldn't allow them to go any further.
Hmm.
It's just that fictional story is what stops them more than, the physical real limitations are.
Yeah, a really important point. So what you tell yourself is important, especially during the challenging moments. What you're telling yourself is critically important. So if you're telling yourself, I can't, it's too much, it will be. It 100% will be. If you're telling yourself, this is a lot, and I'm going to look for a way to get through it because, and there's an answer to that. It doesn't have to be an enormous answer. I want to see my dog at the end of the race or at the end of this event or whatever. Um, but have some sort of, I'm going to try, even though it's hard. I'm going to try, and I'm going to try because, or I'm going to try because it's important to me to be the person that doesn't quit or the person who finds another strategy to get through this. I don't want to be taken down by pain. I want to be the one that works through it. Even that.
The one thing I can think about getting older, because I can't think of any good things about it, but the one many good things about it. I can think of one good thing, and that is you do you do have some time to think about lessons and things you don't want to do again. And
Hmm.
so I, usually when I do talks around the country, I'll mention that there's an imaginary line, and if you cross over that line, you're going to do damage to yourself. And I say
Okay.
this because of something bad that happened to me almost. It happened twice and almost killed me twice. And so if you're running and training for a marathon and you're working out all the time, you wake up thinking about the meal you're going to have because it's going to fuel you for your first workout. And all you think about is that run and your muscles and your conditioning and your weight and everything. At some point, your family's probably going to get fed up with you, just if that's all you talk about. And maybe if you push yourself too hard, at some point, your body's going to start breaking down. But I do think that there's a line. And if we push too much can do, we call it in SEAL teams, if you go over that line, there will be some damage done somewhere. And the reason I say that it's the best lesson I've ever heard of. It was a terrible thing, and I was killing myself without knowing it. But the Hawaii Ironman was the big thing back then. It was a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2 mile run.
Hmm.
But then they had one that was longer and more challenging. And it was a 3.1 mile swim and then a 156-mile bike ride, then a 31-mile run. And the guy who won it, I beat him in Hawaii. So I wanted to win the longest triathlon in the world.
Hmm.
So back then, it wasn't very smart, but all we knew was 3 times race distance. So if you were training for a 3 mile swim, you would try to swim 9 miles a week.
Okay.
If you were biking, if you had a bike race of 156 miles, you're going to try to bike about 450 miles a week.
Okay.
If you're getting ready to do a 30-mile run, you're going to train 90 miles a week running.
Okay.
So I was doing this, and I weigh about 180, somewhere around there. My body started shutting down because I was in the middle of a 20-year break where I wasn't going to take a break from working out. So I was doing all this and I was a Navy SEAL. So my life was way, way physically, focused on physical elements.
Hmm.
And I was positive, and this was reinforced to me by the top triathletes in the country. Nobody was training as hard as I was. I was really overdoing it. So,
Okay.
so I was doing those 9 mile weekly, 9 miles plus swim a week and 450 miles a week run biking, and then 90 miles a week running, plus being a SEAL. And my body started breaking down little by little by little. But my
Mhm.
mindset was, I got to keep going. So what? My shoulder hurts. So what? My leg hurts. So what? My plantar fascia hurts. So what? My neck hurts. Yeah, I'm losing weight, but I'll get it back. I remember my commanding officer said to me once, goes, "What's wrong with your body? Where's the other half?" But I was going through a process where my liver and kidneys were shutting down, and my body couldn't repair itself fast enough. And I had passed out. I'd gone home. And I was on a 20-mile run with a swim coach. And he said, Don, you don't look good. Your skin looks green. And why are you limping? Why is your shoulder so sore? And I was taking pain pills that the SEAL team doctor prescribed me. And things just were getting worse and worse and worse. But I kept seeing them as little obstacles that I'd fight through. So,
Mhm.
anyways, I was jaundiced. My liver was shutting down. My kidneys were shutting down. I went down below 140 pounds, and
Oh.
my bloodstream was all off. And when I went home, I had passed out, and I said, all I have to do is take a bath. And when I couldn't walk anymore because my feet hurt so much, so I passed out in the hallway. And when I woke up, I was in the hospital, and they were looking at my feet because it had all these red marks in them. And I remember hearing, when I was just coming out of unconsciousness, it looks like he was bitten by a lot of poisonous insects. And I was embarrassed to tell them. I said, no, it's just because I run a lot. My feet swell up real badly, and the eyelids dig into my top of my feet. Those are from
Mhm.
eyelets of my shoes. They asked me how much I ran, and I told them, and biked and swam. And so they said it was the worst case of overuse syndrome they've ever seen. And these are the guys who train SEALs, so they see a lot of this. But I guess my point is, it was too much can-do attitude.
Mhm.
Kept pushing through it to the point of very close to killing myself. And I
Mhm.
did that twice in my life. And so there's a smarter way I know now. Now we still have that imaginary line that if you go over it, it's too much. Like we mentioned last time we were talking, a lot of people stay way down here to even come close to their full potential. But
Right.
why not go up and touch that line? You know where the line is. It's in your imagination, but you know where the line is. And then back off, then come back, and the line might be up. The line will move throughout your life, but
Mhm.
that imaginary line, just come up and touch it and back off. And that way you won't do damage to maybe relationships or your health or anything else, your job. And but we should be aware because it's negligence. It's not toughness if you keep pushing through that. For me, yeah, I was tough, but I was negligent and not paying attention to what my body was telling me. My body was basically saying, okay, now I'm going to give up on you. You're going to die. And I
Mhm.
was still not paying attention.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to stay tough and have tough goals and big goals, but then, keeping in back of your mind that big signals, pay attention to them. Pay
Yeah.
attention to them because I've trained people for over 20 years that way. If you're not pushing yourself to hallucinating, passing out, or bleeding, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And that was my thing. I used to say to myself all the time, blood from any orifice. If I'm on that bike seat enough days, I'm going to bleed from that end. If I'm doing too many, 100K runs, I'm going to bleed when I use the bathroom. Altitude sickness, the dives. I bled everywhere. But that was wrong. I was wrong in training myself, but more importantly, I was wrong in training others that way. But now, instead of going over that line, because if I didn't go over that line, I was thinking, I'm not giving enough. I'm cheating. I'm leaving too much at home at the table. My teammates, they seem like they're not giving enough. They should be pushing themselves harder. But now I think the hardest you need to go is just touching the line and backing off so you don't do damage. And that,
Mhm.
that was a lesson. It took me quite a few decades to sink in, but it's sunk in now, and that's how I like to train myself and others nowadays.
Yeah. It's such a good reminder though, you're right. Most people don't push themselves to their potential. They're pain avoidant. They have the mindset, it's a thought. Um, Life shouldn't involve pain. I don't want to deal with pain. And so for some of those people, learning these strategies to manage pain and knowing that life is a part of pain and that growth happens potentially can happen on the other side of that pain. That's a good message. You actually overshot. Your life was so much pain. You were like, I'm just going to live in it.
Yeah.
I'm creating my entire life around pushing past pain. You were training people, you were doing it with your own body, and you had to learn where that line is for you, which is probably way different than where it is for me.
Well, I don't know, maybe not. I would like to go off track a little bit by saying I realize, like, after these adventure races, you're finishing 500, 600 miles and you're totally exhausted. Or you see these other teams come in, a team of 4 or 5 people with one female. So often, Tracy, the guys would be totally collapsed, unconscious, and the lady or the woman on the team would say, "Oh boy, there were so many nice flowers up on that hill." And this dog followed us. It was so much fun following that dog. And we had so many great times. Just ask my teammates. Well, they're all unconscious now, but when they get up, they'll tell you. Uh, Women, I think they have another whole dimension of handling pain.
Well,
You
it's a strategy I actually wanted to talk about today. The strategy of positive thinking. We talked about it a little bit, but gratitude. It maybe more savoring a moment. So even in the midst of a painful experience, maybe something's happening in somebody's personal life that is awful. Maybe they lost a loved one. They're sad, they're grieving, or something. There's a breakup. It doesn't matter what it is so much, but they're experiencing emotional pain or even physical pain. Just because they're in that state doesn't mean they can't experience gratitude or savoring those just delicious moments that come up millions of times during the day. For some people, it's like a hot shower. You get in that hot shower and it just feels so good. You get into bed and it feels so good. On a hot day, it's very hot here. I live in South Carolina. I have gotten that cold water and I gulp it like a lunatic. Gulp, gulp. I know I'm not supposed to gulp it, but I can't help it. I am savoring the moment of water. So even taking those moments to savor, like that female you talked about, look at the flowers. There were flowers on that mountain. Just savoring those delicious moments as they come by. It's also a really important way of getting through pain.
there was a woman, her name was Angelika Castaneda, and she is from Austria. She's one of the most well-known adventure athletes in the world. And we did a race together in South Africa. She was a woman on my team. And I really was a little bit worried about her being on a team at first because she was older than the rest of us.
Uh-huh.
And I saw her bonk a few times on other races where she didn't have enough food with her. And
Hmm.
um, and the Secretary of the Navy's personal photographer was videoing this interview I had with her. And she had a beautiful Austrian accent. And I said, Angelica, I'm a little worried about your age because you're quite a bit older than the rest of us. And
Hmm.
also that you don't bring enough food to eat in these 10 and 12-day races.
Hmm.
And she said, Don, I will not disappoint you, she said in that beautiful Austrian accent. And I saw her bonk, from not eating enough. She said, because she only had a bag of food about this big she wanted to take for 10 or 12 days.
Oh, wow.
And she said something to me I'll never forget. She says, Don, I will not die on you. I might feel like I'm going to die, but my body will eat from itself. And when she
Oh.
said that, that's why I picked her to be on my team. And I can say she was the toughest person on our team. And she
Hmm.
was a woman, she was older than the rest of us, and she was beautiful. She was Farrah Fawcett's stunt double. She was
Uh-huh.
beautiful, and she was as nice as can be. You had no idea how tough that woman was inside.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and a lot, like as a runner, a lot of times your toenails get brown and black and then you have to
Yeah.
peel.
Yeah.
Oh, an adventure racing that happens, and my seventh toenail was coming off, and I was bending down, I was sitting on a cliff, and I was peeling it off. And she was looking over my shoulder and she said, Don, what, in that accent, Don, what are you doing? I said, well, I have to take off this toenail. It's coming off. She said, Don, if you were serious about this race, you'd have those toenails removed and have the skin sewn together so they don't grow back.
Oh.
She was reprimanding me. I mean, she was tough, and you couldn't see that toughness in her. She looked like just a beautiful woman.
Hmm.
She was tough as nails, and
Hmm.
she taught us so many things.
Hmm.
The rest of us were SEALs or special forces. She was tougher than the rest of us.
She definitely was accepting the situation, had purpose and meaning, was savoring the moments, had gratitude, had strategies to deal with all of this, was grounded. Yeah, she sounds amazing.
And she was beautiful all the way up till you saw her toes, then not so beautiful, you know.
So that's something people do, huh? They take off their toenails and seal the skin so they don't
Yep.
come back.
Yep. Marshall Eldridge, he's a really well-known long distance runner in the country. I think he started that. Just
Huh.
so you have to stop and, trim them and
Yeah.
all
Yeah. I hadn't heard that.
that.
That's another technique. Yeah, this is amazing. Okay, so I'm going to go through my just to make sure that we have them all outlined. Because you certainly um, push the limits of pain in terms of Navy SEAL training, being an elite athlete. There is a lot about your life that has meaning because in order for you to accomplish a mission or to accomplish a competition, you were going to experience pain and you had to work through it. So pain has been a big part of your life, and dealing with pain is something you're as comfortable with as anybody I've ever heard. So much so that you've gone too far twice. Um, let's talk about those techniques again. For those listening who are saying, "Man, I can't do that. I can't deal with the pain. I want to avoid pain. My life needs to be pain avoidant." We're saying back to you, you're stronger than you think. There are all sorts of strategies to work through pain. Um, the even your perception of pain will change after you experience it if you allow yourself to work through it. The bubble of where your pain lies will grow, and what hurt now might not hurt later if you experience again. It might be a different limit. So the line's always moving. So allow yourself to move the line. Allow yourself to experience different strategies to help you perceive pain in a different way. One is accepting the situation. Um, and so that might mean instead of saying my life is going to be painless, that's my strategy. I'm avoiding all pain. Say, a big bunch of my life will be painless because that's actually true for most of us. A big bunch of our life is not painful. The points that are painful are still going to happen, and I want to manage it better. So just change the way you're thinking about it. Instead of saying, I don't want to deal with pain, say, I don't want to deal with pain for most of my life, but the times that I have to, I want to deal with it better. It's a just a tiny little shift in what you're saying to yourself, but it's important. So acceptance, being able to meditate during extreme pain, being able to put yourself someplace else in extreme situations where the pain is too much. Visualize your golf game as one example, but it could be wherever your happy place is. Go someplace else. We talked about positive thinking and savoring. We talked about taking instead of being overwhelmed with that big chunk of time. Ugh, the pain is going to last forever, or the pain is going to last for a year. Segmenting it is that was the term, right?
Yeah.
Putting it into smaller little units. You can deal with the small units. Maybe that unit is just the next 10 minutes, but it's up to you what that segment might be. But put it into smaller units instead of the big overwhelming unit. What did I miss?
Well, one thing I was going to also mention, and I
Yeah.
know you know this. Uh, so if you're I think it's important to, if you want to use the word discomfort, to seek discomfort on purpose. Seek having a little bit of pain on purpose when the stakes are low. So, for instance, in the military, you're training, training, training all the time, but you've been seeking and going after discomfort to get out of that comfort zone you're in and expanding how much you can take. So when the stakes are high, like wartime, you've already been through a lot of that. So like even, you can use examples like cold showers, just really challenging training. Even
Mm-hmm.
if it comes to having to talk to your boss or an employee or a relative or somebody where it's going to be a really difficult conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you're not really building muscle, but you can be building a response. Your response by going through the steps that are going to take place when the stakes are low. Like, for instance, my daughter, Donnie, for instance, I have to talk to her because I don't like the way she might be doing something. So
Mm-hmm.
when the stakes are low, when everything's good, it's in a good place, I'll have these little miniature conversations with her and then have the major conversation with her before something bad happens. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Before going out for a 50K run, you know, of course, we know to train, but you're seeking that discomfort in smaller segments. Um, they're scheduled and the stakes are low because you're not going out for a 50K run, you're going out for a 10K run, then a 15K, and you prepare the bad times with seeking discomfort when the
Yeah.
stakes are low and the times aren't bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, especially with respect to even having difficult emotional conversations.
Yeah.
Um, they're survivable. Practice them when the stakes are low. You know, whatever it happens to be. I need to have a conversation with you, and I feel a little anxious. Is it okay if we have this conversation? But don't have the big one. Just start with the little conversation, whatever that happens to be. Go ahead and admit you're feeling a little nervous. Ask permission to have the conversation, and then proceed. Hear their side, state your side, and move forward. If you can take that small step, then you're more likely to have a more challenging conversation when that comes up. And it will. As humans, um, relationships are not always smooth.
Right. And when we talk about pain, so often, well, it's my fault a lot is I talk about physical pain. There's so many other different types of pain that just as bad or much worse even. And I think that's a good example, just a conversation with a loved one.
Hmm.
Good example of it's going to be uncomfortable and you have
Yeah.
to have it because things will be worse if you don't have it. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. So your family members, when you were training for the Ironman, the extra long Ironman, I imagine your family members were watching this and saying, I'd like to have a conversation with him. I would like for him to maybe tone it down a little bit. How did those conversations go? Were they uncomfortable for you or were they super uncomfortable for them?
For my parents, I thought they just lost control of me. I remember the first marathon I ran was Boston Marathon, and I just promised myself I'd run it without stopping, but I wasn't a runner yet.
Okay.
And I did do it. I promised myself, hey, what's going to stop me from putting one leg in front of the other? I did it, and it's 3:44. It's not a great time. But then I was thinking, well, this was terrible. I felt terrible. There's one next month. I'm going to try to break my time. So I did that for 30 marathons in a row. And
Mhm.
there was one time I went up to Canada to do the Montreal Marathon, and I got a series of dri car trips and one small flight getting back to the States. And my father was a pilot, and I was so worn out. My legs were so sore because I'm doing all these marathons, really not as a runner yet. And my father looked down and saw me laying on the ground, and he said to my brother, he goes, "He's getting worse. He's getting worse all the time."
Oh.
And then the other time I know that they were worried is I was on the street to do 20 years without a day off. And the 24-hour period was coming up, and my parents were in the car, and I was taking them to go see my sister who was having a baby. And I was looking at my watch. I go, "Oh my God, I haven't worked out yet." And it was 11:30 at night. My parents were in the car, and they were so concerned about my sister. And I was driving them to Alabama. And I said, "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry to say this, but I have to pull over at this rest area just for a half hour to do my PT." And
Uh-huh.
so that they didn't really talk to me about it, and I don't think they really understood it because it was just a bizarre world to them.
Hmm.
And but I think, and I'd show my parents, these different races on TV, and they never got it. I don't think,
Uh-huh.
I don't blame them. They
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. So that is a perfect example of maybe, if they were listening to this back then, this might inspire them to say, maybe we could have that conversation with them. Maybe we could say, Don, we're a little worried about you. Do you, is it okay to take a break? Is it okay to have a day off? And just say their piece. Let them hear your side. Your side is valid, their side is valid, and air it out. It doesn't have to be a disagreement, it doesn't have to be an argument, but at least be able to speak your piece. But speaking your piece to some people is really, really uncomfortable. And I love that you were saying take the moments to have the uncomfortable conversations, to learn how to take that bubble of emotional discomfort and make it a little bit bigger because the challenging conversations are always there and you want to be able to be at your best during those. And in order to do that, you really do have to practice that muscle with the smaller conversations.
And with that example, if my parents had talked to me, and I don't blame them, of course, for not, but if they had, it would have been a conversation I would have cherished for the rest of my life.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
thought back to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't have changed my mind, but maybe I would have
Right,
been
right. No, you would
a
have
little
heard
smarter.
their love.
Maybe a little
Yeah,
smarter I would have been. Yeah.
yeah. I like the idea that your dad looked at you on the ground. I think he's getting worse. He's not getting better.
Yeah.
And you were. He
Yeah, I
wasn't
was.
wrong. Well, this has been awesome. I know we're way past the amount of time I was allowed to speak with you today, and I just really value the way you see the world, the person that you are, the the strategies you bring to the world. I mean, your pain is my pleasure. It is a strong statement. It, on the one hand, and on the other hand, being able to approach pain in this life where we all experience it with any sort of acceptance is the best gift I think you can give anybody on earth because um, life is painful. Growth is on the other side for the most part, in most situations, not all. But at least you know you've built your resilience. You know how strong you are. Some of us are not testing that, and some of us have tested that so much in so many ways that it helps any sort of strategy. If we've helped them today utilize even a different strategy that they had never thought of, I think then we've done a good job.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more with that, Tracy. I agree.
Well, thank you for coming. And for those listening, if you want more information or to contact Don for more information, your website is, what is it again?
It's Don, Don at US Frogman, and man is with two N's, so it's Don at USFROGMANN.com.
Awesome. And then for us, it's www.choosinghelp.com. And we hope you have a great day and that these strategies were helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.